What do you make of flip-flopping in this new political climate that we're in? Does it matter, or is there a way for candidates to try and say, look, they've evolved?
That's right. When you're a Democrat, you don't flip-flop, you evolve. Like one of those charts with the primitive man, Cro-Magnon man, and then standing up straighter, and then going from being an ape to being an upright human being, Democrats evolve. They don't flip-flop. That was CNN, of course. CNN doing their journalistic best. Sarah Seidner of CNN. They just evolve. When Democrats flip-flop, the news media comes out and explains in dulcet tones that they've evolved. Evolving is a good thing. Flip-flopping is a bad thing. Positive connotation, evolve. Negative connotation, flip-flop. And then they immediately attacked President Trump. Surprise, surprise. It's good to be a Democrat because you're fluffed every day by the fluffer corps. Speaking of which, Dana Bash, whose ex-husband was an Obama administration official and one of the signatories of the felonious 51 letter falsely claiming that the Hunter Biden laptop had all the earmarks of Russian disinformation. One of the biggest lies ever told in the history of American politics, a lie for which intelligence officials should be facing charges, should be in handcuffs for tampering in our presidential election, meddling in. And they're meddling in our election again. You see the Democrats, and President Trump pointed it out on his own social media platform, which he has. Not everybody has their own social media platform. And if you do, you might be arrested in France because, the left is on a tear and they're coming after free speech, among other things. Your religious rights, your Second Amendment rights, and that's just here in the United States, all over the place. Isn't it amazing? A great deal of crazy has happened since we last convened 21 hours ago. One headline here from ABC Fake News, which they're completely in bed and naked with the Democrat Party. They're not just in bed with, they're strict bare naked in a sleeping bag. And I'll leave the rest of the details on. Trump, here's the headline, ABC. Trump charged in superseding indictment in election interference case following SCOTUS ruling. They love to use abbreviations and, SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States. And they use POTUS for President of the United States and FLOTUS for the First Lady of the United States. And it's a little bit of a double entendre in there, but we'll save that for later. The Trump charged in superseding, it's superseding, not just supercilious, but also superseding indictment, which is remarkable. The front page of the Washington Post, the lead story in the Washington Post today, the headline is, Trump's election charges updated. They've updated them. They just, all you have to do is update. And you have the Biden appointee, Merrick Garland, still bitter about not being on the Supreme Court for life. Very bitter man. His last breath will be a bitter breath. And that's sad. But it was the Joe Biden appointee, Merrick Garland, bitter Merrick Garland, who appointed Jack Smith, the special counsel. They call him a special counsel. It's a special counsel. He's very special. He takes the short bus to work in the morning because he's the special counsel. And the special counsel, Jack Smith, filed an updated indictment on Tuesday against Donald Trump in a bid to salvage and strengthen the historic election obstruction case following a Supreme Court ruling that granted broad immunity to presidents for official acts and sharply criticized the prosecutor's approach. But he's a political actor, Jack Smith is, and Merrick Garland is. This is the left. The left is coming for your rights, and the left is coming for power. And that's what they're bloodthirsty for power. They're insatiable. Just amazing. Man, oh man, I'm telling you. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, if he goes to France, he might be arrested because he owns Truth Social. And France is in the way of... They arrested that, the Russian guy who has 100 kids. He's 39 years old and he's got 100 kids. He's both pimp and fly. He's fly and pimp. He's both of those. And President Trump, the next headline from the left-wing Mediaite, Trump rages about deranged Jack Smith filing new January 6th indictment. You know, last week, and I didn't even get to this last week, there were 2 new arrests in January 6th cases last week in the Washington Post. They're still out there 3.5 years later, rounding up their political enemies, grandmothers that were praying on the lawn. They're basically fascists. They call themselves liberals. They're not. Adolf Hitler's party was the Socialist Workers' Party of Germany, lest we forget. The Democrat Party, the party of the KKK and lynchings, and, you know, they're the party of riots and terrorist organizations. They're from the KKK to the SDS to what were they called? The Symbionese Liberation Army. I liked them. They don't get mentioned enough. Stuff like that. And Trump being attacked by NPR, National Panhandler Radio, suckling on the taxpayer teat at our expense. National Panhandler Radio, they're attacking President Trump, saying that when he was at Arlington Cemetery, was it just day before yesterday, for the wreath-laying ceremony, that he or his staff people behaved inappropriately. And so National Panhandler Radio, which behaves inappropriately every day, they're attacking President Trump. However, the Marine Corps families that were there for the wreath-laying, President Trump was there for the wreath-laying, Joe Biden was not, Kamala Harris was not, because they're trying to bury their sins in the dirt of Arlington Cemetery. Their botched withdrawal from Afghanistan and the Hamid Karzai International Airport in Kabul, Afghanistan, where 13 Americans were murdered in a suicide attack. The Democrats love suicide. They have their own suicide attackers. Whole lot of suicide attackers, the Democrats do. I can tick them off for you, but it's only a 3-hour show. There's a lot to get to. Now, the media even attacks him for that. Trump uses Marines' families to shield him from Arlington National Cemetery blowback. That's your blowback. And the media, they're on a jihad. They're not a legitimate news media. NPR, please. First of all, strip every taxpayer dollar away from National Panhandler Radio. It's a propaganda network set up by and for the Democrat Party and the left. Amazing stuff. Also, a crazy story that the Democrats are all about attacking President Trump, naturally, and there's a story in the New Republic, an extremist left-wing radical publication that only communists read and believe. But the headline is, finally, comma, the Democrats have found Trump's Achilles heel, colon. They love their colons, especially at the New Republic. They found his Achilles heel, colon. Ridicule him. Finally, they found his Achilles heel. And New Republic, a radical left-wing extremist who is humorless. He was invited naturally to go on MSDNC to talk about how important it is to ridicule President Trump, because now it's his Achilles heel. And they were snickering on MSDNC because they're a little fascist, and they're just political actors on cable TV posing as news people, journalists, when they're nothing of the kind, of course. And they're so dumb, they're so ignorant, they're so uneducated, they're so unaware of the world around them that they don't even know that the ridicule thing is right out of, Barack Obama and Alinskyite, Saul Alinsky, Hillary Clinton and Alinskyite literally interned with Saul Alinsky himself, radical left-wing extremist, pro-terrorist, and rules for radicals. Rule number 5 is ridicule is man's most potent weapon. But the people at MSDNC don't know that. The people of the New Republic do, because they're ignorant. Expletives deleted. Let's be honest. And honestly, Kamala, and here the headline says, Kamala and Tampon Tim. That's what it says right there. That's one of his nicknames. One of his nicknames for Tim. He's not a good person, but he's too musky and manly for the Democrat Party. Just like Kamala's husband is the sexiest man alive. These people lie like the North Koreans would never tell lies as big as the Democrat Party tells. I'm sorry. Who is the sexiest man alive? Kamala Harris's dullard of a husband is the sexiest man alive? Well, because that's just amazing. Again, it's good to be a Democrat. The propaganda apparatus of the Democrat Party is unlike any propaganda apparatus that any tyrannical regime has ever had in the history of the world. It's impossible for the Soviets, the North Koreans, the Nargis to have a propaganda apparatus like the Democrats have today. Speaking of Dana Bash, CNN's Dana Bash to interview Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. Not just Kamala, she has agreed to do It's the Sit Down, like it's a mafia powwow, in the Pocono Mountains or something. And they're Dana Bash, a dedicated Democrat mouthpiece, married for a period of time at least to an Obama administration official who was a fake intelligence official, completely fake intelligence official, wasn't really an intelligence official at all, got a political appointment at the CIA, and he is one of the signatories to the Felonious 51 letter saying that the Hunter Biden laptop reporting in the New York Post had all the earmarks of Russian disinformation, when in reality that letter signed by Jeremy Bash, Dana Bash's now ex-husband, that had all the earmarks of Russian disinformation. If you're looking for the commies, just look at who's sleeping with who. Isn't that amazing? Also, a fun story in Town Hall today. Kamala scrubs Berkeley and Canada out of her life history. Berkeley and her mother was a Berkeley radical. I looked up her father, too, because somebody asked yesterday, because Kamala Harris's mother, who was originally from India, passed away a number of years ago. God bless her. And her father is alive and well, and he's a radical Marxist extremist. Mom was a Berkeley left-wing activist, and dad, apparently an all-out Marxist. He's a PhD, of course. He was originally from Jamaica, and I tried to find where he lives. He might live in Washington, D.C., actually, to be close to his daughter, the vice president, but nobody in the media covers it because they cover up. They don't report the news. What was the Washington Post tried for a minute? We don't cover the news, we uncover it, until it was pointed out that was like 7-Up is the uncola and you're the newspaper, that we uncover it. But Kamala scrubs Berkeley and Canada out of her life story. When she was a kid, they moved to Canada, which is not the United States at all. It's America's hat. It's our hat, and it's America's largest national park. It's a lovely national park. They play hockey. They have stand-up comedy night and stuff. Kamala scrubs Berkeley and Canada out of her life story because the internet, the Democrats discovered long ago that the internet is even easier to corrupt than libraries and newspapers, which are already fully corrupted for them. But they don't want to associate themselves with the radical left movements of Berkeley and don't want to draw attention to the fact that she went to school in Canada and grammar school and high school in Canada, and she practically became a Canadian, and they're scrubbing that from, you go look for her online and they scrub that stuff, like they're changing Tim Walz, his resume online, which they've done again and again. North Korea has nothing on these people. Great stuff. Also, a funny video re-emerged yesterday, a little video where Kamala Harris came out twice on 2 different occasions and said that more than 220 million Americans had died from COVID. That's what she said. And she didn't catch herself when she said it. She came out on 2 different occasions. 220 million Americans had died. I think we would have noticed that. That would have been in the papers. 220 million Americans died from COVID. And the video re-emerged. And now the media is going crazy, attacking people that would post the media or make fun of her because Saul Alinsky instructs that ridicule is your most important weapon, your most powerful weapon. And that's good when they're using it against Donald Trump or any Republican. But it's bad when they're being ridiculed. Mark Zuckerberg, in his letter to Jim Jordan up on Capitol Hill, I read it to you yesterday, said that the federal government cracked down on them for jokes and memes about COVID because commies are always humorless. The left, very humorless, very humorless. Remarkable stuff. President Trump on the campaign trail and his running mate, J.D. Vance, on the campaign trail. Where's Kamala today? Is She hiding in Joe Biden's iron lung in the basement of the White House? And how many Americans are gay? You might be shocked. The numbers are skyrocketing. I think the Democrats are teaching to the test. Teaching to the test. You know that phrase? Teaching to the test. That's what's going on there. And an update out of Israel on the Gaza pier that Joe Biden mandated. One hostage rescued by the Israelis. Did you see? He's a Bedouin Arab, the hostage that they rescued. Not the hostage taker, the hostage. These guys will take anybody hostage. Crazy stuff. And we are at 888-630-9625. For some reason, President Trump decided to talk to Dr. Phil yesterday, who said, "You think Joe Biden and Kamala were happy that you were shot?" That'll get the conversation going. Let's take a phone call. Michael Piercy back in the saddle today, and Jasmine back in the studio, off to my right hand here. Let's go to the telephones. Let's go to Doug, calling from the funny state of Delaware. Douglas, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Good morning, Chris. I love your show, and I'm looking forward to the rest of it. I was just wondering, they arrested that young man that founded Telegram. I wonder if Mark Zuckerberg will be planning trips to France or anything.
Well, now that people that call themselves liberals are arresting people all over the world. Here in the United States, the Democrats are arresting. As I said last week on the Washington Post, I read that 2 more people had been arrested for January 6th, 3.5 years ago. And, I got to say, President Trump owns a platform, social media platform, Truth. And
yes.
He might be in danger of being arrested by the French. And Mark Zuckerberg, he should probably stay away from France at this point, because somebody might have said something on Facebook a number of years ago that the French government doesn't like. And we've got a rising tide of authoritarianism in the West, don't we, Doug?
Absolutely, Chris. Like you say, and you always say it every day, it's good to be a Democrat.
It is good to be a Democrat. It's absolutely crazy. And this guy, Pavel Durov, a Russian billionaire, social media platform, and in the Hoosgow, in the can, flew into Paris on his own jet. And the Democrat's 39 years old with 100. You hear this, Doug? He's got 100 children.
Oh, my.
Yeah, 100.
Chris, I thought I was doing something.
Yeah, yeah, 100 children. I don't really want to compete with that. Not all by the same woman, though, as I understand it. Ah, yes. And it's Wednesday. Everyone knows what that means. It means it's hump day in the Clinton household. Hillary has to be out of the house early. Make room for Bill. Make room for Daddy, as Bill likes to say when he's walking around in his bathrobe on Wednesday morning. Make room for Daddy. And, a terrible thing, because every Wednesday Hillary wakes up face down in a pool of her own dried vomit on the linoleum kitchen floor with an empty 1-gallon cardboard box of cheap New Zealand Chardonnay, and got to get out of the house and make room for Daddy, and Bill takes over. Red Rover. Let Bill take over. It's not a pretty sight. And that also means that it's mailbag day. And right here in my hand, mailbag questions carefully selected by a committee of one. And we don't have a lot of people. We're not NPR. If a 3-hour radio show on NPR, you have, what is it, 23 people? 23 people for that. And a chef, a sushi chef. Where's our sushi chef? But it is mailbag day as well, and I have mailbag questions right here in front of me. Yes, sir. Now, Michael and I were just talking during the break about this, and I was doing a little reading on the 100 children of the Russian tech billionaire, right? Because he claims that he's fathered more than 100 children. I said not by the same mother, because he's 39 years old. That would be challenging, I think. But it turns out that the claim is, and he put the claim out there himself, that he made some donations, some deposits in a sperm bank, because at first he had a friend that wanted to have a baby. I believe that person to be a woman, a friend that was in the form of a woman. But he says that he fathered more than 100 children, said it on his own social media platform a few months ago now. And it's because, he says, that he started by going to one of these sperm banks. Have you ever robbed a sperm bank? And I think there's some Biden administration officials that have thought about robbing sperm banks. But that's another story for another day. So this 100 children thing is pretty amazing for Pavel Durov, the founder, creator, owner of Telegram, which I've never used, quite happily, say that they've got 900 million to 1 billion customers on this social media platform. But he said on his own social media platform, Telegram, in late July, that he's fathered more than 100 biological children after donating sperm at a clinic 15 years ago to help a friend have a baby. And in Russia, that's normally a woman, because they don't do that Democrat Party stuff where men can get pregnant and put on a Mac emoji of a pregnant man on your phone and your iPad and stuff like that. But said he donated even more after being persuaded by the clinic owner that it was his civic duty to do so, because he's a billionaire. So they're going to have to take all his money. And there's kind of a bit of a funny moment in this. Durov added that at the same time that he plans to open source his DNA. That's the terminology, open source his DNA. So these children can find each other, more than 100 of them. They can find each other and say, hey, brother. And also so they don't accidentally, let's just say, get married. So they don't accidentally get married, because you don't want to accidentally marry your brother, your sister. It would be your half-brother or your half-sister, presumably. But there it is. So that's what he says. And we were talking about this, Michael Piercy and I were talking about this Pavel Durov and his 100 children and the sperm bank and everything. And we reminded ourselves that Elon Musk has a whole bunch of children too. And I said, how many kids does he have again, Michael? And we went to the magic machine, to Al Gore's amazing internet, to look it up. And it depends on who you ask, as it turns out, because there are a lot of headlines. Who are Elon Musk's 11 children? And they go into great detail and say, here are the 11 children by 3 different women, 3 different mothers, 11 children. And the headline just above that is Elon Musk's 12 children, all about his kids. See, all about his kids and their thing. Meet Elon Musk's children. And so they're either 11 or 12 based on news reports, which means, there could be 5 or 25. Nobody knows. But that's pretty crazy stuff. Me, I had a cactus once, but we killed it. We killed the cactus. So I'm okay with where I am. Happy. I grew up in a house full of people. I'm still enjoying the quiet. Ever since I left, been enjoying the quiet. I really like the quiet. Let's take one more phone call. We're, of course, at 888-630-9625. Trump hates to be ridiculed. And on MSDNC, they think that it's good that he hates to be ridiculed, and they plan on using that against him, because that's what they're all just propaganda outlets, bitter, snarky, mostly mentally addled, sexually perverted, gender dysphoric. Democrats. They're Democrats. Summing them up in a nutshell there. All right, let's grab a phone call. Let's go to Jason. Let's go to Jason calling from Kensington, Maryland. Jason, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, g'day, Chris. Thanks for taking my call. Yesterday I was listening to Vince, and a young fella came on, young African-American fella I was kind of impressed with. He kind of came around and basically said I was a lifelong Democrat, and now he's just tired of the being used as a sort of a pawn. And he sort of pointed out that a lot of these people, especially Democrats, really despise the fact that maybe someone like me and him could actually have a civil conversation. They don't like that. And he's sort of seen the light and just, it was very impressive the way he explained it. And it's true, they're just sort of like, pawns in the system. But also, too, I find Democrats in general they're just bad company. I mean, if you ever been around one, even if they've got everything going for them, they're very upset people. Even when things are really rosy, they're going to find something bad to talk about, and it's just terrible company to keep. And I guess misery likes that company, and just not the sort of people I like to sort of hang out with.
Sure. Well, they were telling us last week how they're filled with joy. They're all about joy. And, and then they burned some police cars and overturned and smashed out storefronts and looted places and mugged people. And they're you're absolutely right. They're chronically miserable. And as we know, misery loves company, and they need to go scare it up because nobody wants to hang out with them because, as you said, they're just bad company.
Yeah, and I was sort of like talking about Kennedy's family sort of coming down on him a bit. I mean, this is the same family that, they talk about moral standards. It was like, I guess, does that also include like running a car off a bridge and killing someone? I mean, I'm not sure if that's part of their.
Then they made him then they ran him for president after that. And, he was reelected to the Senate again and again after, leaving Mary Jo Kopechne to die upside down in a car. And he went to brunch and went back to the hotel and got some shut-eye, then went to brunch with his friends, then got the fake neck brace and all that stuff.
I know. They're just so pathetic. I mean, it's just amazing. And then also I can't understand the Jewish population of them. I guess there must be two clans of Jewish, the real ones and the ones that are sort of basically the party ones, I guess. So I just don't
the Democrat Party. Yeah, not the party all the time ones, but the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party demands absolute subservience and discipline and no independent thought. If you're sitting at a dinner table with one Democrat and tomorrow you're sitting at a different dinner table with a different Democrat, they all think and say the exact same things about every single issue.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the slightest bit of anti-Semitism, Chuck Schumer and them guys are all on a soapbox, but I would think the most bad case of anti-Semitism was your own people getting slaughtered, and yet not one word from these guys.
Well, I mean, honestly, we didn't even play audio of the mayhem yesterday at Cornell University, but the Democrats showed up for day one of school at Cornell University in New York State, and they smashed out the windows. They spray painted anti-Semitic graffiti, pro-Hamas graffiti. In fact, I was driving yesterday in Washington, D.C. I drove by the vice president's residence where Kamala Harris and the sexiest man alive lives, Doug Emhoff. The Democrats have a lot of mental illness issues to deal with here. But Doug Emhoff, with his Bergen-Belsen escapee of a daughter with the tattoos and all that stuff. But I drove by and there was a pro-Hamas protest outside the gate to the vice president's residence, the U.S. Naval Observatory. They had their big Palestinian flags and the bullhorn. They always have bullhorns. Democrats, I think, their parents must buy them bullhorns when they're in kindergarten or something. They got a lot of issues. But it's quite amazing. And, you mentioned the Kennedys. Which Kennedy was it that killed Martha Moxley, the 15-year-old girl in Connecticut?
That was, it wasn't Patrick. No, hang on. It was
Michael Skakel?
Skakel, yeah.
Yeah, Michael Skakel. And, one of my brothers used to spend time hanging out with the Kennedy family up in the Northeast, Martha's Vineyard and stuff. And the big joke in the family was Michael Skakel, when he was a teenager, apparently beat to death a neighborhood girl, a lovely young girl, Martha Moxley, with a golf club. She was 15 years old when she was beaten to death with a golf club. And everybody knows, basically, that Michael Skakel had done it, and the family's always made a joke out of it. And when Michael Skakel walks into the room, and the room is full of members of the Kennedy family, they all yell, "Hey-oh, hey-oh," which is a Johnny Carson show reference. Johnny Carson used to, "Hey-oh," and Ed McMahon and do the fake golf club swing. And it was all a big joke that when Michael Skakel walked in, they did the hey-oh and did the golf swing thing, like an imaginary golf swing. And that's all fine. All that is fine. Yeah. And again, Ted Kennedy killing a young woman, turning the car upside down at the I've been to that bridge. My best girl and I rode our bikes that bridge more than once, and Chappaquiddick, and held a ceremony of sorts. But that's another story for another day. And that's all fine with the Kennedy family. Things like that are all fine. But if RFK Jr. should endorse Trump, then that's it.
Yep.
That is a Chappaquiddick bridge too far.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just so, I can't. Yeah, I mean, where's Chuck Schumer and all these guys with this anti-Semitism? It's funny because I remember the days when they would come out and be front and center of any sort of TV camera denouncing this stuff. Now they're just dead silent. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, and again, college is back, so anti-Semitism is making a comeback, and it's all on the Democrats, and there's never a single news story about it, Jason. Why is that?
No. Yeah, I guess because it's all, like I said, they're all hand in hand. The media is, like you said, in lockstep with the party, and they're going to try and corral Kamala as much as they can between now and election, and what's his name? Joe Biden goes by the pronoun. What is it? Was, were now?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, was and were are his pronouns. Yeah, remarkable stuff. Good stuff, Jason. Great to hear your voice.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks.
Okay.
You have fun. Jason, he's from Australia. You may have detected originally, and he's a proud American now. And he gets America more than Chuck Schumer, more than Kamala Harris, who's not from Canada. Don't say she's from Canada. Now, she was born in California, of course, but she did go to school in Canada, which is another country, and they talked funny there. Have you noticed that, Michael? They talk funny. Yeah, remarkable stuff. And the good people at Town Hall produced an article, Tim Graham at Town Hall. Kamala scrubs Berkeley and Canada out of her life story. Isn't it good to be a Democrat? Because when you're a Democrat, you can just rewrite everything. They've rewritten the entire history of the Democratic Party. They're not the Confederate States of America, but wait, they are. The president of the Confederate States of America, Jefferson Davis, wasn't a Democrat. Of course he was. He was the Democrat. And Abraham Lincoln was the first Republican president. Freed the slaves, Emancipation Proclamation. Then a Democrat shot him in the head and killed him. So welcome to the Republican presidency. How many Republican presidents have been shot and shot at versus Democrat presidents that have been shot and shot at? The only Democrat president that was shot was John F. Kennedy, and back to the Kennedy family. And he was shot, of course, by a communist. And the CIA should really release those documents. What's the matter with you people? But remarkable stuff. So the front page of the New York Times, August 26th, story explaining that Kamala Harris's campaign has an allergy to noting their candidate was born in the radical tumult of Berkeley in the 1960s to her radical parents. Instead, a convenient video lists her childhood home as East Bay. Say it's the East Bay, San Francisco. It can't be the People's Republic of Berkeley because, but her mother, Shyamala, no longer with us, was steeped in the social activism vibrant in both Berkeley and Oakland, but that's all been scrubbed. And then the whole Canada thing, that's been scrubbed too. Because we live in a country that resembles North Korea, don't we? Because the left is here. That's right. Her teenage years spent in Canada from 1976 to 1982, from the age of 12 to 18. Re-education camp, I assume. And we are at 888-630-9625. President Trump and Dr. Phil. Hey, do you think Biden and Harris are happy that you were shot? Among other things, coming up. Yeah, we were just talking about during the break here about the Republicans that have been shot and or shot at. The number is large. The number of Democrats shot or even shot at, not as large. two members of the Kennedy family, of course. John F. Kennedy, president, shot by a communist, Lee Harvey Oswald. And then, of course, his brother, Bobby Kennedy, shot and killed by Sirhan Sirhan, who's alive and well in a prison in California. Was actually granted parole last year, but they haven't let him out of jail. Still waiting for the signature by Gavin Newsom, who's got presidential ambitions himself. So, but we were just talking about it. And, you know, Democrats, they tend to be a violent party, don't they? Yes, they do. They do. Who was the first Republican president, Abraham Lincoln, freed the slaves, shot and killed by a Democrat slave lover and a slavery lover, and an actor. So, you know, you got that going. That's one of the things that not so good about being president. 1881, James Garfield, president, Republican, was shot because, you know, that's he's a Republican president. What do you want? William McKinley, president, Republican, shot in 1901. And I mean, it goes forward. Of course, Teddy Roosevelt was shot. Theodore Roosevelt, he was shot. He survived. He kind of walked it off. The guy shot him in the chest, and he had a book. I think he had a speech in his pocket, and it slowed the bullet down. He took the hit. I think he finished his speech after he was shot because, you know, he's a tough guy. Gerald Ford was shot at twice by Squeaky Fromm of the Manson family, the Manson gang, because they were all Democrats, of course, obviously. And then I think the other one was Sarah Jane Moore. She was a Democrat. She was a Democrat as well. Of course, Ronald Reagan was shot, and you may remember Congressman Steve Scalise was shot by a Bernie Sanders campaign volunteer. Now Donald Trump shot, and what's the who is it saying that angry that Democrats are being blamed for crooks? The guy that shot President Trump.
Washington Post.
Yeah, the Washington Post is angry. How dare you blame Democrats for stirring crooks up into a murderous frenzy by saying Trump was a threat to democracy itself?